Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayh. Wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Sallallahu tabaraka wa ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa baraka wa sallama tasliman kathiran kathira. Amma ba'd. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذ قال موسى لفتاه لا أبرح حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين أو أمضي حقوبا فلما بلغا مجمع بينهما نسيا حوتهما فاتخذ سبيله في البحر سربا فلما جاوزا قال لفتاه آتنا غداءنا لقد لقينا من سفرنا هذا نصبا. From here, a very interesting and informative story begins. And this story is an interaction of two very major figures, two very important characters. And even the person who has the good fortune of observing this is a prophet. This is the story of Musa alayhi salam and Khidr or Khadir alayhi salam. And the background of the story is that once Musa alayhi salam gave a speech. And this was after Bani Israel had been saved from Fir'aun. Musa alayhi salam recounted to them the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the talk had a very powerful impact on his audience, the Bani Israel. After this talk, someone came to him and asked, who is the most knowledgeable person in the world today? Who is the person with the most knowledge? So Musa alayhi salam replied that I am. Now, this statement was correct. It was the truth. Musa alayhi salam was in fact the most knowledgeable prophet, and he was the greatest prophet of that time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him the Torah and had given him the honor of speaking directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke directly to him. And he possessed the knowledge of the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there was no exaggeration in this. The fact was that he was the most knowledgeable person. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted that Musa alayhi salam defer the knowledge of this to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not say it in that way, that I am the most knowledgeable person. That it would have been better if he had said Allah knows and leave it at that. So right after this incident, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Musa alayhi salam that, O Musa, there is a slave of mine who knows things that you don't. So right away, Musa alayhi salam became alert to the fact that this is a reminder to Musa alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants something from Musa alayhi salam. Now prophets don't sin. They don't commit sins. The errors that the Quran talks about in respect to the Anbiya alayhimus salam are in fact things that if they had done something else, it would have been better. But it is not an act of disobedience. There's no such thing as a sin for a prophet. It's just that, well, if he had done it this way, it would have been more pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whenever that happens, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alerted them to it. Right away they were given a reminder, as in this case. And all the prophets alayhi salatu wasalam were very attentive to these reminders because their ultimate goal was also to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were aware of this, of the station and the status they held in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In order to maintain that, they had to be more aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure than anyone else. So right away Musa alayhi salam said, "Oh Allah, tell me where he is, and I will find a way to get him. Oh Allah, show me the way to this person." Now this whole incident is mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari and in Muslim and in numerous books of hadith, and that is the account that I am giving you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him that there is a place where two bodies of water meet. That is where you will find this person. And the marker for this, it's not a time that has been fixed, that you will look at the time and know that this is the time to meet this person. The time, the place I've told you, the time will be that you are going to take a fish with, and when this fish escapes, when you lose this fish, that will be the time where you meet this person. So Musa alayhi salam sets on this journey, and he takes with him his disciple, his student, who was later also granted prophethood. His name was Yusha ibn Nun. In English they refer to him as Joshua. Now Yusha alayhi salam was also from the progeny of prophets. He was a direct descendant of Yusuf alayhi salam. So it was Yusha, the son of Nun, the son of Ephraim, the son of Yusuf. He was at that time an attendant or a servant of Musa alayhi salam. So these two set off on this journey, and they travel for a long way. And after some time, they come to a place and they rest. There are some rocks there. They find a place to rest. Musa alayhi salam goes to sleep for a little while. Yusha alayhi salam is awake, and he sees something very amazing. He sees that this coast that they're walking on, and where exactly is this coast? There are different, the Quran has not mentioned it, Hadith has not specified it. Ulama have given various opinions. Some have placed this at the Red Sea, close to Egypt, where Sharm el-Sheikh is. Others have placed it, like Ibn Atiyah, he says this is an area close to Azerbaijan. Some have said it's somewhere else in Africa. Allah knows. But they're walking around this area where two major bodies of water meet. So they rest and they continue, but during this little period of rest, the waves of the water splash onto this basket in which they have this fish, this grilled fish. The fish is obviously, it's dead, it's cooked. But as soon as the water splashes on it, the fish starts moving and it jumps out of the basket. And after jumping out of the basket, it hops into the water and starts swimming away. And not only does it come to life and start swimming, as it moves through the water, the wake of the fish, wake is, the movement of the water after something moves in the water. You see that wave kind of water. It's called the wake. Now what happens is the water gets disturbed, it rises, and then it calms down again. But in this case, this fish, which is swimming through the water starts parting for it. And the wake of it doesn't fall back down, it stays separate, like a tunnel. And the water remains still after separating. So as this fish is moving through the water, a tunnel is forming behind it. So as if the water solidifies, hardens. And as it moves, the tunnel goes along with it. Yusha alayhi salam is very shocked and surprised. But when Musa alayhi salam gets up, he says, let's go, we're getting late, let's move. So they continue traveling for that remainder of that day and through the night. And the next day, Musa alayhi salam says, I'm starving and I'm exhausted. He says, bring us our breakfast. We have undergone extreme exhaustion in this trip. This is where the story begins. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِفَتَاهُ, Musa alayhi salam said to his attendant, I shall not give up, I shall continue to travel, لَا أَبْرَحُ حَتَّى أَبْلُغَ مَجْمَعَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ, until I reach that place where the two bodies of water meet, أَوْ أَمْضِيَ حُقُبًا, or I will continue to travel for years if I have to, until I reach that person. So he is outlining for his companion what the objective of this trip is, the direction of the trip, and the duration of the trip. The direction and the duration are mentioned here, and the objective was obviously laid out before that. So we learn from this the adab of traveling. When you're traveling with someone, don't leave them in the dark as to where you're going and how long this journey is going to be. Allow them time to prepare for the direction as well as duration for the journey. Somebody agrees to accompany you, disclose to them the information that they need in order to plan for this trip. Now, when they reached that meeting point of the two seas, they forgot their fish. Nasiya hutahuma. Even though Musa alayhi salam didn't forget anything. It was Yusha alayhi salam who saw the fish escape and forgot. But because they were traveling collectively, when a group is traveling as a jama'ah with one objective on the same journey, then whatever they do is considered collective. If they achieve something, it's a collective achievement. If they miss out on something, it's a collective omission that has taken place. So another thing we learn is that in a journey, if someone makes a mistake, don't point the finger at them. It's the whole group. The whole group should take responsibility for it. Okay? Yes, this person forgot the fish, but did the next person check to see if it was still there before traveling? So these things happen while we're traveling. So we should say, oh, it was because of that person that this and this and this and this happened. No, when we're traveling, all the members of that caravan or that group are responsible. So Allah says they both forgot their fish, and the fish is also attributed to both of them, which means once something has been designated as provision for a journey, once something has been designated as a provision of a journey for a group, then it belongs to all of them. Shouldn't say it's his or it's mine. Once something has been put together, it belongs to everyone. And that fish escaping through the water, forming a tunnel. اتخذ سبيله, it made its way في البحر, in the ocean, سربا, in the manner of a tunnel. All right. فلما جاوزا, when they passed that area, they went on. Musa alayhi salam said, okay, bring us our breakfast. لقد لقينا من سفرنا هذا نصبا. We have experienced great exhaustion. Nasab is tiredness, exhaustion. And when a person is tired, in order to get their rest, they need some nourishment as well. And then as they rest, the body takes that food and provides nourishment in order to move on. So bring us our breakfast. So Yusha alayhi salam said, أَرَأَيْتَ إِذْ أَوَيْنَا إِلَى الصَّخْرَةِ. Remember when we rested for a little while by those boulders? فَإِنِّي نَسِيتُ الْحُوتِ. I forgot the fish there. فإني نسيت الحوت وما أنسانيه إلا الشيطان وأن أذكره. Now look at the adab of speaking to an elder. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they both forgot. But Yusha alayhi salam, who was the khadim, takes complete responsibility for it. He didn't tell the story first. He claims responsibility first. So whenever we are given a responsibility, if it is not fulfilled, we should be ready to accept the responsibility for whatever deficiency took place. Be ready to carry the burden of the blame, even if it wasn't entirely our fault. In this case, it wasn't Yusha alayhi salam's fault at all. There was nothing he could have done in that circumstance. The only thing he did do was he did forget. He forgot to inform Musa alayhi salam. And because he forgot to inform Musa alayhi salam, they both continued to travel, and they traveled on and on and on again throughout the night, and then until the next morning. So he takes responsibility for that right away. That place that we were at by the boulders, when we rested at the boulders, I forgot the fish. In other words, I forgot all about the fish. He didn't forget the fish in the sense that he left the basket. No, I forgot all about the fish. وَمَا أَنْسَانِيهُ إِلَّا الشَّيْطَانُ أَنْ أَذْكُرَهُ. It was only shaitan that made me forget telling you about it. It's because of shaitan. Shaitan overcame me. So another adab that we learn is that we should not speak to our elders in a manner that we are completely very, very pious. We're immune from mistakes and errors, and we are just all perfect awliyaullah. We can't do anything wrong. No, shaitan got me there. First he says, I forgot, and then he said, shaitan made me forget. And then he says, what happened? Because the basket is with them. Well, what happened? How do you explain this? Then he says, the fish escaped. It made its way through the water in a very strange way, in a very amazing way. Ajaba. Musa alayhi salam says, ذَلِكَ مَا كُنَّا نَبْغِي. He doesn't start blaming him and accusing him. You know, this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set him on this journey to experience this exhaustion and this exertion, so that he removes this idea from his heart, from his mind, that I am the most knowledgeable person. And that will only happen after going through some exhaustion, some exertion, and after spending some time and energy. So Musa alayhi salam doesn't start rebuking him, because obviously there is no fault here except for the fact that he forgot to mention. But yes, shaitan made him forget. Now let's get to the point here. ذَلِكَ مَا كُنَّا نَبْغِي. That is what we were looking for. That time, that occasion is what we were looking for, that we're going to lose this fish. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had told us that there's going to come a time where you're going to lose this fish. That is where you will find this man that I'm sending you to look for. فَارْتَدَّا عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمَا قَصَصًا. They retraced their own footsteps, right back to that point. This time when they reach there is someone waiting for them. فَوَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا. There they found a slave from our slaves. They found one of our slaves there, one of our servants there. And the hadith mentions that Musa alayhi salam arrived at that spot, and he sees a man sitting there with a sheet draped over his head, just sitting with his head down. So Musa alayhi salam greeted him with salam. The man said, who knows about salam in this area? No one knows about giving salam here. Who are you? He said, I am Musa. He said, oh, Musa of Bani Israel. He said, yes. So So then the man replied that there is some knowledge that you have been given which I do not have. There is some knowledge that you have been given by Allah that I don't have. And there is some knowledge that I have been given by Allah which you don't have. So he put everything in perspective. You're not an ignorant person, obviously. You're not somebody with insufficient knowledge. There is knowledge, and there's a lot of it. And there is some that I don't even know. But there are some things that I know which you don't. And this person was Khidr or Khadir. And in the hadith, the word Khadir is used. The word Khadir is derived from khudra, which means the greenness of something. Some say that it was one of the miracles of Khadir that wherever he went, wherever he sat, greenery would start growing. Now there is an important discussion that Mufassirin have spoken about. That was Khadir or Khidr, it's another way of pronouncing it. Was he a prophet or not? Some say that he was not a prophet. And the reason for that is that it's mentioned in Sahih hadith, like the hadith of Sahih Muslim, that the Prophet ﷺ came out of his house and he said that none of the people in a certain amount of time, in a few years, 100 years, none of the people that are alive today will be alive. And that's in the discussion that is he alive or not. So some say that he is still alive, some say he has passed away. We'll talk about that in a minute. But was he a prophet or not? Some say he was a prophet, some say that there is no mention of him being a prophet, therefore he couldn't have been. And they say that the things that the story talks about later on could not have taken place from a prophet. But there is a majority of exegetes, of mufassirin who say no, he was a prophet. In fact, the only way he could have done whatever he did was if he had received a direct order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the form of wahi, because wahi is absolute. The instructions are absolute. And the Prophet does not have the choice to decide whether he's going to go ahead with them or not going to. Those are imperatives from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because some of the things that you will hear about are contrary to Sharia, to all the Shari'ahs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no Sharia that allowed those things. The exception and the exemption could only have been made for a prophet. So the assumption that he was a waliullah and that's it, this is not correct, and it's not sufficient to establish what this story is saying. He could have made that I have some knowledge that you don't. It could not be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives knowledge to a layman, to a person who is not a prophet, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deprives a nabi from that knowledge. It's not possible. Unless that other person was also a prophet that had been sent for a different mission, for a different objective altogether. So the correct view is that Khadir alayhi salam was also a prophet. It is possible that he did not receive any book, but that's where the difference between a nabi and a rasul comes in. That okay, he could have been a nabi, but he did not have to be a rasul. He did not have to be a person that received a book. He did not have to be sent to an ummah with followers. He did not have to have on any of those things in order to be a prophet of Allah. So Musa alayhi salam is coming to this person for the sake of acquiring knowledge. So he says to him, Hal attabi'uk. Before that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something describing Khadir. آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِّنْ عِنْدِنَا. We gave him a special mercy from us. There was a special mercy that we gave. In other words, there was special knowledge that we had given him. وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِن لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. We had taught him knowledge from our side. So rahmah here could be prophethood, and knowledge meaning the knowledge, that special kind of branch of knowledge that he was given. So Allah says, we taught him the knowledge. So that makes his knowledge complete, and it makes it absolute, it makes it perfect. Musa alayhi salam requested, هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا. May I follow you? May I come along with you? May I follow you so that you can teach me some of the guidance that you have been taught, some of the good things, some of the things of uprightness, some of the things of good morals, some of the things of hidayat, of rushd that you have been taught. Can I follow you for this purpose? So this is a request now coming from Musa alayhi salam, who wants to be this person's student. قال إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا. Musa alayhi salam is giving the request, the application to study with him, and he is replying with a very blunt answer. You cannot have, إنك لن تستطيع. You don't have the ability to be patient with me. He didn't say you're impatient. He said you don't have the ability to be patient with me. There are some things about me that you are not able to be patient about. And this was not an insult to Musa alayhi salam. This was not an insult. He was not underestimating him or lowering him. No. What he was saying is that there are some things that you will see that you are not allowed to be patient over. So how do you resolve that? You are not allowed to stay quiet on those things. That's why he said, لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ. You will not be able to be patient on those things. Why? Because you as a prophet of Allah have been instructed to speak out against those things. And this is where the branches of knowledge, the two branches of knowledge diverge. The knowledge of Sharia that Musa alayhi salam was given is complete. It encompasses all aspects of life. But the knowledge and mission of Khadir alayhi salam was not about Sharia. It was about carrying out tasks, specific tasks and missions given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that have to do with the system of taqween, the system of creation, the system of the creatures. And in fact, the example of Khadir is like that, and the tasks given to him are just like the tasks that are given to angels. The angels are not chosen to spread Islam and spread deen. They're chosen for specific tasks. They're angels that are put in charge of systems of life, systems of nature. They're angels who are deputed to carry out the taqdeer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When a person expects it the least. Khadir alayhi salam was given such duties and such responsibilities. So his mission was not the conveyance of Sharia, it was to carry out specific commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, similar to those that are carried out by angels. So it was not possible for Musa alayhi salam to see that and allow a human being to do that, because that was not his mandate. It was completely against his mandate. And Khadir goes ahead to explain this, saying, وَكَيْفَ تَصْبِرُ. How could you be patient? How could you be quiet? عَلَى مَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ خُبْرًا. Over an aspect of knowledge that you do not have, that you have not encompassed. And those things have been withheld from you for a specific reason. Just like your knowledge has been withheld from me for a specific reason, if Khadir had also been given the knowledge of Sharia that Musa alayhi salam had, it would have become a hindrance for him in carrying out his missions. Musa alayhi salam wants to try this because of his burning desire, to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That whatever happens, I need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be happy with me, to be pleased with me. And if Allah has told me that there is someone more knowledgeable or someone who has knowledge of things that I don't have, I need to acquire that. So first was his desire to please Allah, and secondly, his desire to acquire knowledge. So the desire to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to make up for that one sentence or that one word that he said, that I am the most knowledgeable person. He said, Insha'Allah, if Allah wills, you will find me patient. I won't disobey you. وَلَا أَعْصِي لَكَ أَمْرًا. I will not disobey anything that you ask me to do. So look, of course, the intelligence of Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam cannot be compared to the intelligence of normal human beings. These are two prophets having a discourse. It's unbelievable. The level that they're speaking at, if you were to really examine it academically, you would find so many jewels and gems in this. He says, Insha'Allah, you will find me patient, and I'm not going to disobey anything that you ask me to do. He's not taking responsibility for Khadir's actions. He's taking responsibility for his own. If you tell me to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to disobey. That much I can commit to. As far as patience, no, you'll find me to be a patient person. He says, okay, fine. قَالَ فَإِنِ اتَّبَعْتَنِي. If you do become my follower, if you do follow me, you do become my student and disciple, فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي عَنْ شَيْءٍ. Don't ask me about anything حَتَّى أُحْدِثَ لَكَ مِنْهُ ذِكْرًا. Until I mention it first. This is the only instruction. Don't ask me about anything until I speak about it first. This is your only instruction. That's all you are required to do. So, the teacher sets the rules and the conditions for education, not the student. And there are two things that we learn, that we are required to learn. One is ilm, knowledge, and the other is tarbiyah, to refine ourselves, rectification. These are two things that a student acquires from a teacher. They gain knowledge, information, which fills their heart, fills their mind, and it empowers them to do many things. But along with it is something called tarbiyah and islah, rectification, correction. Both are transferred from the teacher on the conditions that the teacher lays down, not on the conditions that the student lays down. If a student wants to learn on their terms and conditions, they cannot benefit from this person that they're going to. Khair. The journey begins. فانطلقا. They started traveling. حتى إذا ركب في السفينة خرقها. They came to a river and they boarded a ship. The hadith tells us that the people saw Khadir and they recognized him. And they said that we would like to take you without charging any fare. We'd like to take you across this river without charging anything. And it was at this occasion, hadith mentions, that a small bird came. While Musa alayhi salam and Khadir alayhi salam are standing there, a small bird comes in front of them and dips its tiny beak into the water and flies away. So Khadir asks Musa alayhi salam that, you see this bird pecked in the water, took a few drops. He says, oh Musa, your knowledge and my knowledge and the knowledge of all the creations combined in front of the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not even equal those drops of water that this bird took in its beak compared to this whole vast river. There's no comparison. Anyways, they board the ship or the boat, the ferry, and Khadir pulls out an axe and tears out a plank, a panel from that boat. In other words, he damages the boat. Musa alayhi salam is upset and he says, you tore this boat. Are you trying to drown everyone on the ship? What are you doing? You're tearing a panel out of this ship. Now that ship, that boat was a perfectly fine, very, very good shape boat. Khadir puts an axe to it, tears out a plank. Musa alayhi salam says, are you tearing it? Are you damaging it to drown everyone on this? What is this? لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا إِمْرًا. This is strange. This is nonsensical what you're doing. Khadir responds and says, wait a minute. Did I not tell you إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا, that you won't be able to be patient with me? He didn't say, hey, you promised. You broke your promise. He says, I told you something. There was something I said that you don't have the ability to be patient. In other words, your knowledge will not allow you to be patient with what you're going to see with me. Musa alayhi salam thinks back and he says, you know what? Okay, there must be something. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, now look at trust. This person has done something which I think is wrong. But then again, Allah is the one who has guided me to this person. That means I need to be patient. So he steps back and says, okay, la tu'akhidni ma nasita. I totally forgot about that. So don't hold me responsible for what I forgot. I said this statement in just a state of forgetfulness. وَلَا تُرْهِقْنِي مِنْ أَمْرِي عُسْرًا. Don't make my matter unbearably difficult for me. Okay? I slipped. You understand where I'm coming from. I'm a prophet of Allah. There are certain rules. And one of those rules is we do not damage people's property. And here these kind people have allowed us to take a ride on their boat for free, and it's a brand new ship, it's a brand new boat, and you just put an axe to it. You have to understand that I'm not able to stay quiet on something like this. But I'll be careful. فَانْطَلَقَا. They continued. They got off that boat and they continued their journey. حَتَّى إِذَا لَقِيَا غُلَامًا. They came across a boy, a young boy. فَقَتَلَهُ. Khadir grabbed that boy and killed him. Young boy. Now Musa alayhi salam speaks out. He said, did you kill an innocent person? You took an innocent life, nafsan zakiyatan bighayri nafs. Not in retaliation for a murder that he committed, just like that? You just took an innocent life without reason? لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا نُكْرًا. What you have done is not acceptable. This is unacceptable. Khadir repeats the same word. Did I not tell you that you are not able to be patient with me? You're not able. Now Musa alayhi salam is confused. He's utterly bewildered that on one side, this is haram. This is a major sin. This is a crime. He's killed an innocent person that he didn't see him doing anything wrong. He just went and killed him. But on the other side, Allah has sent me to this person. Musa alayhi salam says, fine. إِن سَأَلْتُكَ عَنْ شَيْءٍ بَعْدَهَا فَلَا تُصَاحِبْنِي. If this occasion arises again, where you do something and I have to ask you, I have to object, if I object against you for anything after this, then don't keep me in your company. Then you can send me away. So he manages to quiet himself down, calm himself down, get over the fact that he just witnessed a murder. Says, okay, fine, I have to tolerate this. I have to put up with this. فَانْطَلَقَا. They continue to travel. حَتَّى إِذَا أَتَيَا أَهْلَ قَرْيَةٍ اسْتَطْعَمَا أَهْلَهَا فَأَبَوْا أَنْ يُضَيِّفُوهُمَا. They came across this this town, they were of course starving. Istat'ama ahlaha. They requested the residents there for some hospitality. Can we have some food? Can we have some arrangements? Is there any arrangements here? فَأَبَوْا أَن يُضَيِّفُوهُمَا. These people refused to offer them any hospitality. But normally what would happen is when travelers pass through a city, there would be places where they could just go and people would see that, okay, these are travelers, let's do something with them. Some arrangement would be made. But in this case, no arrangement was made. And here, فَاسْتَطْعَمَا أَهْلَهَا, they actually asked the residents there for some food, maybe to purchase it from them or some arrangements or something, but they did not entertain them at all. Now, as they're walking through the streets of this town, فَوَجَدَ فِيهَا جِدَارًا يُرِيدُ أَن يَنْقَضْ. They saw this wall of a structure about to topple, about to fall. So Khadir, فَأَقَامَ, he placed his hand over it, he wiped his hand over it, and the wall became erect again. That wall that was about to collapse and fall, it became erect. He fixed it. Now, Musa alayhi salam doesn't object to why he did that. He didn't do anything wrong. He fixed something for someone. This is a good thing. But Musa alayhi salam says, if you wanted, you could have taken some salary for this, some wage, some compensation, because you just did a whole construction job for somebody. So if you wanted, you could have. It was a suggestion. It was not an objection. قال هذا فراق بيني وبينك. Khadir says, this is it. This is where you and I part. You go your way and I go mine. This is the end. But before you go, سأنبئك بتأويل ما لم تستطع عليه صبرا. I am going to tell you the meaning behind those things that you were not able to be patient about. I'm going to explain to you what happened here. The first incident on the boat. This boat belonged to some poor people, masakin. And a miskin is sometimes defined as someone who has nothing. But the fact that this boat belonged to people that Allah calls masakin indicates that a miskin can also be someone who has only the bare necessities in life, but not really enough to get by. Not enough to live comfortably. So this boat belonged to a group of poor people. So a whole bunch of poor people have pitched in to get this boat. And that boat was in fine condition. It was in beautiful condition. يَعْمَلُونَ فِي الْبَحْرِ. They worked in the water, ferrying people back and forth. فَأَرَدْتُ أَنْ أَعِيبَهَا. I wanted to damage it. Why? وَكَانَ وَرَاءَهُمْ مَلِكٌ. On the other side of the water where they were going, there was a ruler. يَأْخُذُ كُلَّ سَفِينَةٍ غَصْبًا. He would forcefully take every nice looking ship. He would just take it. غَصْبًا. So in other words, he would say, okay guys, you get off. He would force them off and just snatch it away from them. So he wanted to damage it so that when that ruler came and had it inspected, he would say, oh no, this ship is about to drown. But of course, being intelligent as he was, he did not take out a panel that would actually cause the ship to drown, but it would just make it look bad. It would make it look unappealing and damaged. So who wants a ship that they think is going to drown? So I did that to save the ship. I did that to save the ship and save the livelihood of these poor people who are working. So was there something wrong? It looked like it was wrong, but in fact, it was what saved the ship of these people. About that boy. His parents were believers. But we feared that this boy is going to hurt them, is going to exhaust them, طغيانا وكفرا, by rebelling against them and by disbelieving. He's going to rebel against his parents. He's going to cause them a great deal of harm. فأردنا, so we wanted أن يبدلهما ربهما, that their Lord, the Lord of those two parents, replaces them خيرا منه زكاة, with a child that is even more innocent, وأقرب رحمة, and is going to look after them, is going to keep that family tie strong and established. وأما الجدار, and that wall, فكان لغلامين يتيمين, it belonged to two orphan boys في المدينة, who lived in that city. وكان تحته كنز لهما, and beneath that wall was a treasure belonging to these two orphans. وكان أبوهما صالحا, their father was a pious person. فأراد ربك, your Lord wanted that those two boys reached their age of youth and be able to extract their treasure from under that wall. رحمة من ربك, this was a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وما فعلته عن أمري, I did not do any of this on my own accord. So this is where two systems that are actually running parallel, but they're distinct from one another. These two systems are brought to our attention. There is a system of laws, etiquettes, rules, right and wrong, limits for what is acceptable and unacceptable, what we call Sharia. And then there is an unseen system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is also running its course day and night. People are getting healthy, they're getting sick, they're growing old, they're getting strong, they're having gains, they're having losses. While you're practicing Islam and Sharia, all of this is also happening. People are being born, people are dying, accidents are taking place, crimes are taking place, conditions of the world are coming and changing, all kinds of things are happening in the background. This goes on irrespective of people following deen or not following deen. There is a system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, what we do know is when people start practicing deen, then that system starts becoming subjugated to these people. That system starts running in favor of these people. In this case, it was shown to Musa alayhi salam that that unseen system cannot be understood just by having the book of wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that there is a system. It does not give you the intimate details of that system. That system, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed makhluqat for it, they are running it. In this case, for the sake of educating Musa alayhi salam, he was introduced to a human being who had also been tasked to carry out those kinds of duties, just like the angels are doing them day and night. And the fact that a human being was doing it does not mean that they were above the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It means that they were given a separate set of directives similar to those given by angels. Now, nobody can say about Malakul Maut that he is a big zalim or he is a qatil because he takes the ruh of people out of their bodies. And nobody can say about Mikail alayhi salam, who is responsible for the system for many of the natural systems, that he is a zalim because he withheld the rain from such and such area. All of this is happening only by the direct command of Allah. That's why Khidr alayhi salam says, وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِي. None of this was by my wish. It was all by direct wahi. So the point was to introduce Musa alayhi salam to another system, which is not covered in detail in this, but he should know that this system exists, and there are people who have that knowledge even from amongst the human beings. Of course, there are also the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that child that Khidr killed, that child's parents were pious people, good people, And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew, as everything is in His knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that this child is going to cause a great deal of destruction. If he reaches a certain age, this child is going to be a murderer, a criminal. He's going to do a lot of things, and that is going to damage his parents, cause his parents a great deal of grief, and it's going to wear them out. He's going to wear them out by rebelling and by his disbelief. This child is not destined to be a believer. So imagine a person, a person is going about doing their things and an accident happens. It's not an accident, it's a decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no such thing really as an accident. It's just a term that we use, but in fact it was a decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that caused that to happen for a reason known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and unknown to us. Here you just saw a person carrying out those acts. And that wall, now look, in both cases there are parents involved here. In one case there were parents, kana abawahu mu'minain, they were believers, they were people of iman. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of their maqam, their position in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not want them to endure this. The pain of dealing with someone who's going to rebel against them and hurt them, and the pain of having a child who is a disbeliever. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved them and saved the entire society from this person. And didn't just take away their child. The parents didn't know that this is about to happen with this boy is going to turn out to be like this. Allah replaced them, and riwayat mentioned, Mufassirin mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replaced that boy with a girl. Gave them a girl who grew up to be pious, and she gave birth to two Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam. So He took this one away, replaced it with a girl who became the mother of prophets. And in the third case, again there are parents involved. How is that? It's two orphans. Their father has left for them a substantial amount of wealth. Mufassirin mentioned gold and silver. Some say that it was a golden tablet with some advices written on it, as mentioned by Allama Qurtubi. In any case, there was a treasure of substantial monetary value. It was hidden. The father had hidden it beneath this wall. The instructions were to be given to those children later on in life that this is your property, it belongs to you. If that wall had collapsed, people would have seen the treasure underneath it, and they would have taken it, and there would have been nothing for the children. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserved it. Khadir says that your Lord wanted these boys to be able to grow up and have access to that treasure. And He gives a reason for it. The reason was that their father was a pious man. Their father was a pious man. So how does this become a reason? It becomes a reason because when a person is endeavoring to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and staying away from all of the things that displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah looks out for their interests. And one of those interests is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks out for the livelihood of their progenies and takes care of their families. That's why Umar bin Abdul Aziz, when he was on his deathbed and he had many children, people said, look, you gave everything away. The moment you became the Khalifa, you gave everything away. You put it in Baytul Mal. You lived a life of poverty, and now you're leaving your children with nothing. He said, no, I have taught them piety. And if they hold on to this, they will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will suffice for them. And if they don't have piety, even if I left them with all the money in the world, they would find themselves with nothing in their hands. And so time passed and showed that those people from his family who were also governors and rulers, and they really, really enjoyed their money, but they did not have that piety, they did not have that morality and character. Those families were found to be begging at the doors of the Masjid of Banu Umayyah in Damascus. They were found begging, holding cups in their hands at the Umayyi mosque. And the children of Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahimahullah had become millionaires. So the piety of the children, the piety of the parents directly affects the future of the children. So it's not how hard you earn that will sustain your children's financial future. We're talking purely financial and monetary. But your piety is going to secure their financial future. This is the deeper meaning behind the interpretation behind all of those events that you were unable to be patient for. So, many lessons to be taken. The lesson of not attributing knowledge to oneself. The second thing is, even if it happens to be the case, and this is a problem today, because even those that have little or no knowledge are, chirping about their knowledge. I know this, I've read this, I've studied this, like people who are completely ignorant are saying, no, I've researched this. They'll come to us with an argument, with a debate, I've researched this. The first thing they do is they claim to have knowledge. And it's a very dangerous thing to have. This tendency to think that you know, this is what forms what is called compound ignorance. Compound ignorance. Simple ignorance is that you don't know something. What's behind this window? I don't know. That's a simple ignorance. There is an unknown in your system. Compound interest is, compound ignorance is when you claim to know what's behind it and what you know is wrong, but you think it's right. So now there's two ignorances. So if I say, oh yeah, there's an elephant behind there. Of course I know. Somebody asks you, do you know what's behind there? Yeah, there's an elephant. And I'm pretty convinced that there's an elephant. So now there are two ignorances. One is the fact that I don't know, and the second thing is what I know is also incorrect. So in Arabic, the Sha'ir, he summarizes this. He says, "Jahilta wa la tadri bi annaka jahilun, faman li bi an tadriya bi annaka la tadri." Because you don't know, jahilta, you're ignorant, wa la tadri bi annaka jahilun, but you don't know that you're ignorant. I wish someone could tell you, someone could let you know that you don't know. So claiming to have knowledge and claiming to be very knowledgeable about things, especially in religious matters, is an extremely delicate thing. Here, Musa alayhi salam is attributing knowledge to himself, which is true. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sets him off on this journey just to build in him that, no, I should not be attributing knowledge to myself. I should be attributing it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I should have just referred it to Allah. Allah knows. That's it. And we learn from it the etiquette of learning and teaching. And we learn the importance of sacrificing for the sake of that knowledge. If somebody like Musa alayhi salam, who had everything in terms of the knowledge of Sharia, if he had to exert himself and exhaust himself, then we should, as seekers of knowledge, we should also be prepared to exert ourselves and exhaust ourselves. And then the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the system of Zahir, which is the system of Sharia, which we are all bound by. And the unseen system that runs in the background that most of us, we see the effects of it, but we don't understand it. So there was just to display and demonstrate that this is also a system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the case of Khadr alayhi salam, he was appointed and given duties in respect to that system. Inshallah, in the next dars, which will be the last one before Ramadan, we will speak of the next story that is mentioned here, the last one, and that is of Dhul Qarnayn. Who was Dhul Qarnayn? What was he? And what were his achievements? And what does the Quran say about him? Inshallah, we'll talk about that next week. May Allah give us tawfiq. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillah.